The 5 a.m. hour gives you mental clarity because it is the only time of the day when your mind is untouched, unbothered, and uninterrupted by the world. There is a sacred stillness in the early morning that you cannot manufacture at any other time. When you rise before the sun, you rise before distraction, before noise, before obligation, and before the world begins to compete for your attention. In these early moments, your mind is free from the residue of yesterday and the pressure of the day ahead. It is a blank canvas, receptive, open, and ready to be directed by your highest intentions. Most people never experience true clarity because they move from sleep to chaos, from waking to reacting without any moment to pause and command their direction. But when you wake at 5 a.m., you step into a space where clarity becomes possible, where thoughts come through with purity, where ideas form without being drowned out by the demands of life. At 5 a.m., your brain operates in an optimal state, producing the type of calm focus that allows you to think deeply and strategically. You take the lead instead of following the patterns of the average. Clarity gained at dawn shapes the entire trajectory of your day. When you begin your morning with purpose, the rest of your hours fall in line. You make better decisions because your mind is steady. You stay centered because you have already rooted yourself in quiet strength. You navigate challenges with more patience, more creativity, and more resilience because you began the day filled rather than depleted. Over time, this mental clarity becomes one of your greatest advantages. It sharpens your focus, elevates your discipline, and enhances your ability to stay aligned with your long-term vision. Where others feel lost or scattered, you move with intention because your morning clarity has already set the direction. Waking early builds an unshakable identity because it forces you to confront the deepest part of yourself, the part that chooses discipline over comfort, growth over ease, and purpose over excuses. When you rise at 5 a.m., you are not just waking up earlier than the world, you are proving to yourself that you are the kind of person who does what others are unwilling to do. Identity is not formed through intention, but through repeated action, and waking early becomes a daily act of self-definition. Each morning you rise before your feelings are ready. You strengthen the belief that you are in control of your life. And this belief is what separates those who hope from those who transform. The moment you choose to leave the warmth of your bed while the world still sleeps, you send a message to your subconscious that discipline is who you are, not something you try to practice occasionally. Most people allow their identity to be shaped by circumstance. They believe motivation must come before action, not realizing that action is what generates motivation. When you consistently wake at 5 a.m., you reverse the cycle that traps so many. You stop waiting for the right mood, the right day, the right inspiration. You become the source of your own momentum. Over time, this becomes a psychological shift so deep that it changes the way you view yourself. You begin to trust your word again. You begin to respect your commitments. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of extraordinary things, simply because you no longer negotiate with your excuses. The alarm rings and you rise, not because it is easy, but because it is what you do. Identity is built through evidence. Every time you honor that morning decision, you gather proof that you are reliable, strong, disciplined, and capable. This accumulation of proof becomes your new self-image, and your self-image becomes your destiny. People fail not because they lack talent, but because they do not believe they are the type of person who succeeds. Waking early rewrites this internal narrative. It tells you that you can do hard things, that you can take command, that you can master yourself before you attempt to master anything else. And once you see yourself this way, your decisions naturally rise to match that identity. You choose better habits. You choose higher goals. You choose the path that demands more from you because you now trust that you can meet those demands. Waking early also removes the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Most people dream of becoming stronger, more disciplined, more focused, yet they never practice the behaviors that lead to that transformation. But the moment you begin rising at 5 a.m., you are not just imagining your ideal self. You are becoming that person. Day after day, that identity grows stronger, more stable, more undeniable. You begin to walk differently, think differently, speak differently, because discipline has become woven into the fabric of who you are. Over time, this unshakable identity becomes the engine behind every achievement, every breakthrough, every moment of growth you experience. Waking up early expands your time because it returns to you the hours that most people unknowingly waste and transforms them into opportunities for growth, clarity, and intentional action. The truth is that everyone has the same 24 hours, yet the difference in outcomes between people often comes down to how those hours are used. When you rise at 5 a.m., you step into a part of the day that almost no one else is touching. It is untouched territory. Quiet, free, open, and entirely yours. There are no calls, no messages, no responsibilities pulling at you. The world is still asleep, and because of that, you gain a psychological advantage that carries far beyond the morning. Instead of being rushed, stressed, or behind, you begin your day with the rare luxury of time. Time to think, time to prepare, time to strengthen yourself before the world asks anything of you. This extra time becomes the foundation of productivity, not because the hour itself is magical, but because what you choose to do in that hour reshapes the rest of your day. When you wake early, you lengthen the runway of your day. You give yourself the space to start slowly but intentionally, rather than jumping straight into chaos. You can reflect, read, plan, train your body, organize your tasks, or simply sit in silence and align your mind with your purpose. By doing this, you set the tone instead of having the world set it for you. Most people spend their mornings reacting. They wake late, scramble to catch up, and begin their day in a state of pressure and disorder. But when you wake at 5 a.m., you are no longer driven by urgency. You are driven by direction. You own your time instead of chasing it. This expanded time also multiplies your ability to achieve long-term goals. Big goals require consistency, and consistency demands time carved out with intention. When your mornings are free from distraction, you gain the ability to chip away at your dreams before anything else interferes. Whether it's building a skill, growing a business, strengthening your mind, or improving your health, the early morning becomes the perfect space to invest in what matters most. These daily investments compound, turning small actions into life-changing transformations. While others claim they don't have time, you quietly create it. Waking early also changes the way you perceive time throughout the rest of the day. Because you started early, you feel ahead, and this feeling influences your decisions. You become more decisive, more focused, and less likely to waste hours on low-value tasks. You become more aware of how precious time really is. The discipline of rising early gives you control over your schedule. And with control comes the confidence to shape your life intentionally. This expanded sense of time reduces stress, increases effectiveness, and elevates your ability to stay on track with your commitments. Over weeks and months, you begin to see the difference between merely living through days and strategically building your future through them. The world is silent at 5 a.m., and in that silence, opportunity speaks in ways it cannot during any other hour. There is a profound truth hidden in the early morning. Noise does not simply come from outside, it also comes from within. Throughout the day, your mind is filled with opinions, conversations, responsibilities, demands, and the constant vibrations of the modern world. But at dawn, before anyone needs you, before your phone lights up, before life begins asking you to divide your attention, there is a stillness that allows you to hear the thoughts you normally suppress. In this silence, your intuition becomes louder, your creativity sharper, and your sense of purpose more defined. You begin to access the part of your mind that is often drowned by the noise of daily life. This is why so many breakthroughs, insights, and ideas come early in the morning, because silence reveals what noise hides. When the world is asleep, you are granted a rare environment where nothing interferes with your inner direction. In this hour, you can think without influence. You can reflect without interruption. You can listen to your deepest ambitions without the distortions of fear or judgment. Opportunity does not always appear in the form of events or people. Opportunity often arrives as a thought. One powerful thought that has the potential to reshape your entire path. But to receive that thought, you need space, quiet, and awareness. The early morning gives you that space effortlessly. It is a window of clarity that the average person misses every single day. At 5 a.m., you also unlock a different level of creativity. The mind is naturally more imaginative and receptive during these early moments because it has just separated from the dream state. This liminal zone between sleep and full wakefulness is responsible for some of the most innovative ideas in history. When you rise during this time, you give yourself access to deeper layers of thinking where solutions come more easily and inspiration flows more naturally. You become more connected to your purpose because your mind is not yet cluttered by the noise that usually clouds your judgment. This silence also strengthens your emotional intelligence. Without distractions, you become more aware of your feelings, your fears, and your intentions. You understand yourself more clearly, allowing you to make decisions rooted in your values rather than pressure or confusion. This self-understanding becomes a powerful compass throughout the day. When you begin your morning with this level of clarity, your actions become more aligned, your choices more intentional, and your productivity more meaningful. Furthermore, the silence of 5 a.m. gives you the rare chance to be fully present. In a world where attention is constantly pulled in every direction, presence is a superpower. Early morning presence helps you slow down enough to observe your life rather than rush through it. You step into your day with a grounded mind, a centered spirit, and a focused intention. Instead of reacting to life, you create life. Instead of trying to catch up, you move ahead with calm precision. In the quiet hours where the world is still, opportunity whispers to the one who is awake and willing to listen. You said, discipline becomes your superpower when you wake up at 5 a.m. because it is the hour that demands the most from you and gives the most back in return. There is no applause, no audience, no external push urging you to rise early. It is a battle fought entirely within the self. And when you win that battle repeatedly, something extraordinary begins to form inside you. Discipline stops being a momentary act and becomes an internal identity. Most people wait for motivation to guide them, not realizing that motivation is unreliable. It fades with mood, weather, stress, and convenience. But discipline is consistent. It does not care how you feel. It does not negotiate. It simply asks you to do what you said you would do. And when you wake up at 5 a.m. every day, you are training the most powerful part of your character. The part that chooses action over excuses. When you rise early, you strengthen the relationship you have with your own word. The moment your alarm rings and you choose to stand up instead of snoozing, you send a message deep into your subconscious, I can count on myself. This simple act, repeated over time, rewires your self-perception. You start trusting yourself more, you start believing in your ability to follow through. You become someone who honors commitments rather than someone who breaks them. This trust in yourself becomes one of the greatest forces behind personal transformation, because a person who trusts himself becomes unstoppable in the pursuit of any goal. Discipline at 5 a.m. also teaches you mastery over your emotions. No one wants to rise early every single day. There will always be resistance, fatigue, or temptation urging you to stay in bed. But each time you override those feelings, you prove that your emotions do not control your life. You do. This emotional mastery translates into every area of your daily experience. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop surrendering to the easier path. You stop letting temporary discomfort decide the direction of your life. Instead, you act from your purpose rather than your mood. This is how leaders are built. This is how success becomes predictable. This is how you separate yourself from the masses who are controlled by how they feel instead of what they want. The discipline developed in the early morning also increases your resilience. When you repeatedly choose the difficult thing first, everything else becomes easier. The obstacles that once intimidated you begin to lose their power because your daily practice has already conditioned your mind to push through discomfort. You begin to embrace challenges rather than fear them. You learn to stay consistent, even when the results are slow. You learn to stay committed, even when no one is watching. Discipline becomes a quiet force within you, a strength that gives you an unfair advantage over anyone who relies solely on inspiration. Over time, this morning, discipline multiplies your progress. It creates momentum, builds confidence, sharpens your focus, and aligns your actions with your long-term vision. Each morning becomes a reminder that greatness is not achieved through occasional effort, but through consistent commitment. Waking at 5 a.m. becomes more than a habit. It becomes a declaration of who you are and what you are capable of becoming. Your life rises when you rise early because the act of waking at 5 a.m. triggers a chain reaction throughout your entire day, your habits, your mindset, and ultimately your destiny. When you begin your morning with a deliberate choice rooted in purpose rather than comfort, you reshape the direction of your life from the very first moment you open your eyes. Every powerful change in life begins with a decision, and waking early is one of the clearest decisions you can make that signals to your mind that you are stepping into a new chapter, a higher standard, and a more focused identity. When you consistently start your day before the world moves, you gain an internal momentum that carries you into every task, every challenge, and every opportunity with greater strength and clarity. Your mornings stop being rushed, chaotic, or uncertain. Instead, they become the quiet engine that powers your entire day with intention and direction. As you rise early, you begin to see your life through a different lens. You no longer feel like time is controlling you. You begin to feel like you are controlling time. You move from surviving your days to designing them. Your choices become more aligned with your values, your goals, and your long-term vision. This alignment shifts your energy, your focus, and your confidence. You create space to work on the things that matter rather than being swept away by distractions and demands. And when you consistently dedicate your mornings to growth, whether through planning, learning, physical training, or deep reflection, your life gradually begins to expand in the same direction you are focusing on. What you nurture early grows stronger throughout the day. Rising early also enhances your emotional stability. When you begin your day in silence rather than stress, you regulate your thoughts and emotions before the world has the chance to influence them. Instead of entering your day reactive and overwhelmed, you enter it steady and prepared. You process challenges with more patience, more clarity, and more rational decision-making. You feel more grounded and less easily thrown off course. This emotional strength influences how you handle relationships, work obligations, obstacles, and unexpected moments. You respond like a leader instead of reacting like a victim of circumstance. Over time, this emotional discipline becomes a major factor in the upward trajectory of your life. When you rise at 5 a.m., you develop habits that compound. A consistent early morning routine naturally encourages healthier choices during the rest of the day. You eat better, you think better, you work better, and you treat yourself better because you already invested effort into starting the day strong. This compounding effect creates a sense of personal mastery. You begin to believe that if you can conquer the hardest hour of the day, you can conquer anything that follows. This belief becomes a powerful fuel for personal transformation. Success becomes less of a distant dream and more of a daily practice. As weeks turn into months, waking at 5 a.m. becomes more than just a routine. It becomes a defining part of your identity. You begin to embody discipline, consistency, clarity, and ambition. You rise early, and your life rises with you, not because the hour itself is magical, but because you have become the kind of person who leads yourself before the world has a chance to lead you. When you choose to wake up at 5 a.m., you are not simply adjusting your schedule. You are redefining the way you live, think, and lead yourself. You are stepping into a life where intention replaces impulse, where clarity replaces confusion, where discipline replaces hesitation. Every early morning becomes a statement that you are no longer willing to be shaped by circumstances. Instead, you are the one shaping them. You rise before excuses, before distractions, before the world has the chance to dictate the rhythm of your day. And in doing so, you claim the rare advantage that belongs only to those who are willing to rise when others choose to sleep. The truth is simple. Your life does not change through grand gestures or sudden miracles. It changes through the quiet consistency of small, powerful decisions made daily. The decision to wake early, to step into the silence, to cultivate clarity, to build discipline, to expand your time, and to rise with intention. These choices may seem simple, but they carry the weight of transformation. Every day you rise at 5 a.m., you reinforce the identity of a person who is in control, a person who acts with purpose, a person who leads their own destiny. You are not just waking up early, you are waking up to your potential. You are waking up to the version of yourself that has always existed within you but has been waiting for your commitment. And when you discipline your mornings, you elevate your entire life. You begin to see doors open that once seemed locked, ideas emerge that were once hidden, and strength grow in places where weakness used to live. You begin to attract opportunities that were once out of reach because you have become the person capable of receiving them. So let this be the moment you draw a line in the sand. Let this be the moment you decide that you will no longer be guided by old habits, old fears, or old excuses. Let this be the moment you rise before the sun with the conviction that your life is worth the effort, worth the discipline, and worth the transformation. You have the power to command your mornings. You have the power to change your story. You have the power to rise every day with determination, clarity, and purpose. Wake up at 5 a.m. and watch what happens when you give your best self the first hour of the day. Watch how your energy shifts, how your focus sharpens, how your confidence grows, and how your life begins to move in the direction you always hoped it would. The world belongs to those who rise for it. And now, it's your turn to rise.